You're tuned in to the TVL Rundown, a comprehensive look at the athletics and athletes within the Twin Valley League. Joined by Jeff Wurtz of the TVL Spotlight, I'm Max Blaske with KNDY. The TVL Rundown is a service of the Citizens National Bank in Greenleaf and Bruna Implement.
Another reason to make the Citizens National Bank your bank. With the century of experience, you know you can count on us for convenient banking and personal service for people you know and trust. With extended hours and online banking for all your financial needs. Another reason to make the Citizens National Bank your bank.
For the best in farming equipment with the service to back it, there is only one Bruna Implement Company, your local Case IH dealer. Since 1947, the staff at Bruna Implement Company works daily to provide the best parts and service when you need it, always dedicated to their customers. Bruna Implement Company has been family-owned for 3 generations, and they know what it takes to be successful as your area Case IH dealer. With locations in Marysville, Washington, Clay Center, Seneca, Hiawatha, and Humboldt, Nebraska. Stop by or give them a call today.
Welcome into the TVL Rundown, this week's edition, joined as always with Jeff Wurtz of the TVL Sports Spotlight. High school basketball is in full swing around the Twin Valley Leagues, with a lot of teams starting to make their names in terms of the standings. Quickly looking at the girls' standings, kind of a surprise team out here, but Blue Valley Rams undefeated at 5-0, Valley Heights Mustangs 3-1, Clifton Clyde Eagles 5-1, Donovan West 5-1, and Lynn Girls 4-1. Top of this league looking very good. Of course, it's early on here in this season. You know, when we're looking at these teams, Jeff, when we did our little girls preview, I think we talked about, teams like Lynn, Hanover, Centralia. They all have one loss, but towards the end of the season, you know that they're going to find their mark and get in a rhythm. And I think, too, especially the Lynn girls, I know they're lone losses to Little River, but I think they're looking pretty good here early on with a solid stretch of games out there at the Gossel tournament.
And, with Lynn, the thing is, I thought, okay, what way is this going to go for the Lynn Lady Bulldogs after that loss to Little River? Are they going to be down a little bit? And then they end up holding the next team to 9 points. So I think Lynn's still going to be okay with their season. But, yeah, this top of the league is just absolutely incredible on the girls' side. You could say Blue Valley is a surprise, but this is a team that's been boiling since 2, even 3 years ago, a team that has been almost ready to get there. This year they're finally getting there and doing a great job. I think they're going to be in it for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a chance to see them a couple years ago, and you could just tell that they were, like you said, kind of on that come up in that sense. Another team, too, that, I don't want to call it a surprise yet, but the Frankfort Wildcats ladies team is off to a 3-3 start this season after last year's only 4-win team. Of course, under first-year head coach Doug Thompson there over at Frankfort. The girls, I think, down there, if they can get some stuff right, they might be one of those teams that, come TVL tournament time, after last year's, we'll call it a disappointing season, to have that motivation to be a lot better and competitive going into this year.
And we know what that TVL tournament does. We could talk until we're blue in the face, and I usually do, about how much I love that TVL tournament. It provides so much for these teams to get that competition and see exactly where they are. And I think the most beneficial team this year for that would be Frankfurt. They can see exactly where they are. They may fly up the standings. They may take a knock. You just don't know until you get there. If you're looking at a team that really needs that competition level to be at its highest, it's Frankfurt right now. It's the middle of the pack, but the Wildcats without a doubt.
Absolutely. I agree from that standpoint. They're a team that, you have to watch out for. Centralia, like we said earlier, too, another team after losing All-Stater Owen Dieters. I think it's going to take some time for them to find their footing. Of course, they've played a real tough schedule here early on in the season, but that ability under Dusty Thompson to, right that ship in that sense and get rocking and rolling. As we look at the boys standing coming into this week's of games, Axtell setting on top at 3-0, Frankfort boys 4-2, Hanover Wildcats 3-0, Clifton Clyde 4-2, Donovan West 4-2. You know, all these teams up at the top are teams that we talked about in the early season having that ability to make a repeat run like Axtell at a state title. You know, Clifton Clyde Eagles back in a rhythm. Hanover's going to be one of those top teams. I mentioned the Centralia Panthers earlier. They're kind of a surprise 0-3 team, but I know that they're going to get that ship righted again. You know, just a tough schedule here early on. Nemaha Central, St. Mary's, and the likes playing those games. Has an opportunity to, you know, get rocking and rolling from that standpoint. But boys, I think this year, maybe besides 2 or 3 teams, probably going to be very wide open in terms of where the middle of the pack sits.
Oh, without a doubt. I think the Clifton Clyde Eagles, they have played some very good games and come up just short. They are hanging right in there with teams. We know that offense can go. We know that they can play end of the court to end of the court, and I really see them maybe not as the top team right now in the league, but they've got to be in that mention between, you know, all of these teams. Clifton Clyde is going to last, and I cannot wait to see more what their middle of the season, end of the season is like, because I think this is a team that is only getting better, and that's dangerous in this Twin Valley League.
You know, and Clifton Clyde was one of those teams, I'll be honest, I had a little question mark here early in the season, losing a player like Jack Scotchney, but being able to come out with a 4-2 record here early on, playing really good in their first contest. Of course, we all know TVL basketball is a little bit different, but watch out for them. And a team that I wanted to mention too as well, the Washington County Tigers, their squad that I think both me and you, Jeff, had a chance to see. Washington County with a big win over a state-ranked Lincoln team last week, then bounced that back with another big victory Tuesday night. You know, I think Coach Ryan Huckett over there at Washington County has the opportunity this season to really take a step forward with his boys if they're able, you know, to compete night in and night out and pick up some of those wins after only a 4-win season last season.
And the most exciting thing about Washington County isn't necessarily the athleticism. It isn't necessarily how they can put up points. It's that everybody buys in. That is a team in all senses of the word. Off the court, on the court, they are a well put together team, and you can't come up with that in practice. It's just how a team is, and I think that makes Washington County very deep and very exciting to watch.
I'll agree too. I think they're one of those teams to keep a lookout and two playing in their, you know, home gyms coming up in the TVL tournament, middle of January. Still a lot of basketball to get up until that point, but will be really interesting. Now, I did want to mention too, as we well know, TVL, one of the best leagues in the state. Looking at this week's state rankings in Class 2A, Valley Heights Mustangs come in number 6 on the girls' side. Also, Donovan West in 2A, number 8. Staying on the girls' side, Centralia, number 3 in Class 1A Division 1, with Clifton Clyde cracking the top 10, and then 1A Division 2, it's the Hanover Wildcats with the top spot, with the Lynn Bulldogs there setting at number 3. So, you know, Jeff, kind of going back and forth here now, back to the girls, but TVL with 6 teams already inside the top 10 in their respective classes. State's always taking notice on what the TVL can do.
And I appreciate what the state did this week. I wondered about that Lynn Moss, what it was going to do in the state rankings. Only dropping them 1 spot. Credit what the state did, noticing who these teams are playing this year and how early they're playing them and not knocking them for that. They see what we see finally, Max, that these teams are playing the best and not dropping them 5 spots because, oh, that's an L. You have to commend what they're doing up top and just deciding, okay, these losses are a little bit weighted. And I think that's exciting to see. I was really impressed to see the Lynn girls only drop one spot and then come back in their next game and just absolutely tear apart Solomon.
Yeah, I don't want to laugh, but yeah, holding Solomon to 9 points. You don't see single digits very often in high school sports, regardless, unless it's maybe a baseball or softball score. So congrats there, Trevor Kuhlman's squad, with a good bounce back win. And then, on the boys' side, not a lot of state ranked teams. Hanover, Axtell, you're 1 and 2, depending on where you look at. But I think those teams are going to stay 1 and 2 the rest of the season on the boys' side. Having a chance to see Axtell once already, we're going to see him Friday night too as well. They look like, and dare I say, maybe a deeper team than they were last year, just the length and the ability that they have coming off the bench. And then Hanover, we know what they did in football. They come off the state title. They get a tight win versus Troy. Then they pick up victory over Nemaha Central and then Thayer Central too as well. And those two teams, again, I think without a doubt, those are the two best teams in the state of Kansas in Class 1A Division II boys.
And you mentioned the Thayer Central game. That was a sneaky good win for Hanover. They played very well and got the job done there. That was a really nice way to get going for Hanover. A lot of people don't know exactly what happened in that game. They played top notch.
And Thayer Central, one of those teams, top-notch in Nebraska. We're going to see a lot of those Nebraska teams, too, coming up in the Winter Showcase out on the 30th and 31st. We'll preview that probably in next week's edition of the TVL Rundown. Mentioned there, too, as well, KNDY will be over at Axtell for the Lynn versus Axtell game on FM 95.5 Friday night. Jeff, what other games does the TVL have on the schedule for Friday evening?
Looking at Friday night, Blue Valley is at Rural Vista. Centralia and Valley Heights, that will be phenomenal on both sides. Clifton Clyde hosts Bishop Seabury. D West is at Troy. Frankfort and Onega. And Hanover, Washington County is a game that really intrigues me. They're in Washington. I can't wait to see those games either.
I think it's going to be another top-notch schedule. You mentioned the Donovan West Troy game there. I'm looking forward to seeing what the girls can do on that one. Of course, Troy, a former TVL team. They have one of the best players in the state in Harper Whitestein, but the girls, like we said, for Donovan West, off to a 5-1 start. That's going to be a pretty awesome game, too, as well. Of course, there's going to be a lot of basketball coming up the rest of the season. We mentioned the Winter Showcase into the year, TVL tournament throughout the middle of January. As always, Jeff, where can everyone keep track of scores, stats, and updates from the Twin Valley League?
Head on over to tvlspotlight.com and also tvlspotlight.blog. I have everything you can ever ask for, everything that I can put together sometimes in a stressful, busy time right now in TVL.
And like we were talking about a little bit before off air, basketball is one of those seasons that it comes in like a Kansas wind, and it just doesn't seem to stop until the end of the season. So be sure and keep your hats on tight and settle in for the ride that is Twin Valley League basketball season. Again, with Jeff Wurtz of the TVL Sports Spotlight, this is Max Blaske with KNDY Radio here on the TVL Rundown. We thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully you can catch us next week again for another edition of the Rundown.
You've been tuned in to the TVL Rundown, a comprehensive look at the athletics and athletes within the Twin Valley League. Joined by Jeff Wurtz of the TVL Spotlight, I'm Max Blaske with KNDY. The TVL Rundown is a service of the Citizens National Bank in Greenleaf and Bruna Implement.